OBS Workflow tips. Here we go. So my number one workflow tip right now is to download OBS 23. This is the latest version. It came out just this week, and that includes Twitch integration, which allows you to have Twitch chat right here in OBS. You also have the stream information window, which lets you set the stream title, the category, tags, and so forth. And so these windows are actually dockable. You can rearrange this, put it wherever you want. You can have it as a separate chat window if you want it on like a second monitor or something. I enjoy this layout that I have here, where chat is on the left, sources in the middle, and mixer on the right, because I typically only have one scene that I'm working with, and so this allows me to turn items on and off in this scene, adjust the volume of my audio sources, and then also read the chat at the same time. So when you're adding sources in OBS, like let's say we want to add a new image here, what I like to do is add a tag to the beginning. So like img, and then whatever this is. So let's just add an image here, maybe this one, that's fine. And then now when I want to try and find this later, I just look for the image tag because I know that it's an image, which is much easier to find than digging through a list of things that are just random names of whatever it may be. So if you want to rename this, just right click, rename. So let's name this Monka Sabers, because that's what this is. See, it doesn't quite fit there in the window because the image is too big. You can right click and go to transform. You can't really see it because it's so big, so let's actually scale it down a bit so that we can at least see this. Right click, transform, and we want fit to screen. So that just made it so that it fits into the screen. The entire thing is in the window now, and we can move it around. So let's put it over there. But let's go ahead and hide that because it's covering up the OBS window, and this is what I'm trying to talk about. So try and label things properly and add tags at the beginning. It will help you find things much faster. So my next tip would be to create groups. So here I have some miscellaneous items now, and I want to group them all together. So hold Shift, select the items, right click, and go to Group Selected Items. Now this creates a group. I'm going to name this group Test Group. Just hit Enter. So now you can collapse this. You can hide the entire thing. You can lock it. So now, even though these are all unlocked, I can't move any of them here in OBS. And the final tip for groups that I like to do is to color just the group title. So let's set a color here. And now if I have multiple groups open, it's much easier for me to see what is a part of which group. So I can see that this group ends right here, and the new group starts there. You could also, if you want, select the entire group and color all of these the same color. I find that this is just kind of busy, and it doesn't help. You know, it's kind of blinding, and it just looks ugly. I'd rather not do that. And you achieve the same thing of telling the groups apart when you just have the group title colorized like that. So even if I had all of these groups open, I can easily tell where one starts and stops, and the next one begins. So use groups, and if you want, color the group title. I think it's very handy. So moving on to how I actually group things together. I like to put all of my audio devices in a single group and put that group at the bottom of the stack because audio layering doesn't mean anything here in the sources list. All that matters is if the audio source is visible or not. So if it's visible, then it can be controlled, it can be muted, it can be unmuted. If it's not visible, that just means that it's muted. So if I hide this, and now you can hear me again. So another handy tip, if you have extra audio devices that you don't care about, you can just hide them. So now it's no longer in the mixer. But if you have devices like, say, a camera, like if we go here into the capture sources, this camera has stereo audio, but you see it's visible, but I don't see it here in the mixer. That's because it's hidden. So if I right-click, unhide all, there it is, camera 2. And so if I know that I'm never going to use this audio source, so there's no reason for it to be in the mixer, even if I have the camera visible. So you can just right-click on this and then click on hide, and then the source is hidden from the mixer, but the actual video itself is still there. So that's very handy. I hide the audio source for all of my cameras because I'm never going to use the camera's built-in audio. So moving on, I have the capture sources here at the bottom of the layer because I find that they're usually at the bottom of the overlay and I have things stacked on top of them. So here I have the display, which is what we are looking at right now. I have the multiple cameras that I use when I'm doing the art stream, and then just some extra stuff that I might need. On top of that, I have another overlay, which is for like if I have like a reference picture that I would want to use, I can quickly show it here with this. And so this is where like I would put any reference images, so just like extra stuff. If I'm goofing around and want a funny picture or something, it would probably go in here. And then on top of that, this is the stuff that I typically don't mess with, and I kind of always want it to be there, like the Twitch channel name or the sort of branding images that I use. I always want those to be there, so I try and have it at the top of the overlay. Same with like the Streamlabs notifications, like when somebody subscribes or, you know, follows or whatever, which is pretty important. So this test group up here, actually I want to move this down, so I'll just grab that, move it down here. It's very easy. So instead of, you know, grabbing all of those items, since it's in a group, it's super easy to just drag that down here. And that is about it for the group organization. So typically I would have just these two groups open so I can turn things on and off. I can add new items in here and control the cameras. And then if I want to switch to another scene, I have these scene tabs down here, or the scene tab rather. And I would just transition directly to another scene. But if you're the type of person that has a complex overlay setup and many scenes that you might want to mess with, I highly recommend you use Studio Mode. So that is over here under the recording button. And if you've never used this before, it just gives you two windows. The one on the right is the current scene, and the one on the left is the next scene. So here you can modify stuff in this scene, move things around. You see this one isn't quite as organized as the other one that I use because I don't use this one very much. And I've been working on the organization in OBS, so I've learned a lot since I set up this scene. But then if you're ready to transition, you just click transition, and there you go. So transition back. Since I like the organization of this scene a lot, I can go ahead and just duplicate it and then rename it. So there we go. So this is the exact same scene as the other one, but I don't actually need that, so let's just remove it. I'm going to exit studio mode because I don't actually need it. And I think the final tip that I would like to talk about is sort of like even like a supergroup, maybe, if you'd want to call it that. But if you'd like to take grouping to the next level, you can actually add whole scenes into your OBS sources. So if we go and make a new scene, this might cut the audio, so give me a moment. Okay, there, I've added the audio back in at least. Let's add the display capture. I believe it is this one. Yep. So here's this. I don't know, let's just add an image of some sort. Sure, I'll add that into this scene. And then go back to the scene selection. Let's rename this as like scene test. Go back over here and go to sources. Now I can add this whole scene in here. So let's do that. You see it's exactly how I had it laid out. And we may actually be hearing double audio, but I don't think that's how that works. I'll have to check the recording afterwards. But anyway, this is really handy if you want to make some complex overlay of some sort in one scene and you know, just have like some extra organization. That's very useful. If you find yourself layering multiple static images and text that doesn't change, or there's no like fancy animated effects or anything, I would not recommend doing that in OBS. Do that in a photo editing program like Photoshop or GIMP or something, and then, you know, compress it down to like rasterize it into a single image. So then you can just load it in as an image source in OBS, because that will probably save you some performance there, loading a single image instead of, you know, layering a bunch of things on top of each other that don't need to be. So I think that about wraps this up. I like this layout with the chat, sources, and mixer. Maybe you have something different. I'd be interested to see it. Let me know. I think this is especially nice because it fits well onto the side of a 1080p monitor, which is what I have here, without compressing things a little too much. I'd be interested to see if OBS let you have like a little image indicating what each of these sources are. So like this is text. If there was like a little icon to indicate that this was text, then I wouldn't have to do these labels. It would also be nice if the group color followed down through these. So like if, you know, this is this color, if that color like came down the side here to help further like indicate what group you're in, that would be really handy. I don't know, we'll see. OBS takes requests, so I might put a request in for that. Oh, I do have another thing that I want to mention. If you want to make a completely new overlay, I would not recommend making a new scene. I would recommend making a new scene collection. So what I do each day when I'm making a new overlay for Beat Saber, I just create a new scene collection and then label it. You see here I have all the different dates, and then I kind of briefly mention what it is. So the way OBS scenes work, it actually loads everything in all of these scenes that's visible. It just doesn't show them until you transition to that scene. So if you have like a bunch of different complex overlays with different images and animations and stuff, it'll load all of that, and you'll run into performance problems, which is why I was running into so many performance problems. But if you have a different scene collection, like all of these, it only loads what's in that scene collection that you have selected. So make sure you're doing that. Also, if you have multiple like Twitch accounts, or like me, sometimes I do drawing in 1080p, but then when I play Beat Saber, I do it in 720p. you should make a different profile, which is essentially the settings that OBS is using for your streaming. And then you can quickly switch between them. I can't actually show that here because it doesn't let you change the profile while you're recording or streaming, I assume. But this is the button up here. And in general, just click on things in OBS and see what they do. Like mess around with, advanced audio properties. See what all the different scene transitions are, download plugins, that sort of thing, and, just explore OBS. It can do a lot more than you think. Let me know if anything was unclear, and I can try and sort it out for you. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know.